I'm going to do a quick little video here breaking down the ancient Greek that was used in Wonder Woman. This is not the newer movie that came out, but the one prior to it, the first one, where Gal Gadot plays the superhero. There is a scene in this movie where there is a kind of battle of languages between the spy named Sumer and Wonder Woman. Right at the end of this battle, Wonder Woman beats him by speaking ancient Greek, which translates to, and you'll see it here briefly, but can you recite Socrates in ancient Greek?
Samir's a top undercover man. He can talk the skin off the cat in as many languages as you can.
A mí no me parece tan impresionante.
Tú lo eres para mí. Tus ojos son tan suaves como tu sonrisa.
Archie, nirienshin kaswa, nisya yashima.
Ihuanyaha, gunya.
Alois te sukraten helenis tirapsatan.
Oh, tickle me bum. That was sensual, wasn't it? But we're not here to judge how good it sounded, we're here to judge its historical accuracy. So, I'm going to put up the words of what was said here, and we're going to go through it. So, this is the transcript of what Wonder Woman said in ancient Greek. Now, the important thing about ancient Greek is it's phonetically complex. Now, what that means is there are a bunch of stigmata, these markings at the top of the letters. I like to call them squigglies, but there's also, in addition to the squigglies that you see there, are these what they call acute accents. And acute accents are simply an increase in the tone. So when you get to the letter, the syllable that has this acute accent, all you do is increase the tone of your voice. So, for example, the word hoios, if we just take the end syllable there, the os, it's not os, it's os. So you kind of have to bring it up in tone when you say that. Now with the squigglies, as I like to call them, they're formerly known as perispormine or circumflex. These circumflex, a bit more complicated, when you get to that syllable, it's indicating that first there is a rise in the tone, and then halfway through the syllable, pronouncing it, there is a decrease in the tone, there's a relative decrease. So that hoios, at the start it has the squiggly, the hoi, and that is pronounced like, instead of hoi, it's pronounced as hoi, so you first increase the tone, hoi, and then you decrease the tone, hoi. So it becomes hoi, hoi, hoi. And of course there's the acute accent os, so you increase it first with the hoi, and then you bring it down, the hoi, and then you bring it back up again. So it becomes hoios. Alright, now that we've gotten the phonetics out of the way, we can start critiquing the scene and see if it phonetically makes sense, see if it aligns with the transcript.
Alois te sukraten helenis tirapsatan.
Alright, so she's speaking very quickly, so we're going to have to slow that down.
Alois te sukraten helenis tirapsatan.
Alright, so we've already run into an issue right at the start. I believe she's saying Alois.
Alois te
Yep, she's saying Alois. So there's three problems with this. The first and biggest problem is missing a syllable. She's not pronouncing the word correctly. She's not pronouncing that os at the end, so it's supposed to be hoios, but she's pronouncing it as ois. The second issue is the question of a breathing mark. So it's a rough breathing mark, so you breathe when you say the word hoi, hoi instead of oi. She's pronouncing it as if it doesn't have a rough breathing mark, as oi. The third issue is the question of tone. Her speech is monotone. This is a big no-no in ancient Greek, because the tone can change the meaning of a word. A good example of this is tis. Tis, with an acute accent, means who. It's an interrogative, a question. Whereas tis, with no acute accent, no inflection of the tone, means someone. So you can actually change the meaning of a word just through the tone. This is important, especially the first two errors, because a missing syllable and the wrong breathing mark is enough to make it sound like she's talking about a sheep, because the word for sheep is ois, and she says alois. So we'll keep that in mind for the end and see how what she says could be misinterpreted. Alright, we're 2 words in and it's not looking great. There's already a host of errors, but I believe the rest of it isn't too bad, so it's not going to be that nitpicky for the rest. On the good news, she's pronouncing the al right, so there's that.
Alois de sucra. Alois de sucra.
Right, what I'm focusing on there are 2 words, the te and the air. She's pronouncing them as if they're one word, which is good, which is what you're supposed to do. The problem here is the second word, air, has a circumflex on it. So although she's pronouncing it as one word, te, she's not quite pronouncing the circumflex, and that goes back to what I highlighted before, the problem in tone. She's monotone. After the hoios, it should be te, not te, because the circumflex also makes the syllable long. So it should be al hoios te.
Alois de sucraten. Alois de sucraten.
Alright, in this clip I'm focusing on the word sokraten. It should be kra, and the vowel there is short. So kra, because it has rise in that middle vowel. It should be kra, and it should be very short. Sokraten.
Alois de sucraten Hellenis tirapsakmen.
Pronunciation of Hellenisti is not bad here. Maybe it's a question of the second vowel and how long that is, but because it shouldn't be Hellenisti, it should be Hellenisti. But I think she's pronouncing that well.
Alois de sucraten Hellenis tirapsakmen. Hellenis tirapsakmen.
And the final word here, rhapsoiden. Again, it's just a question of vowel length. So the middle syllable there, the oi, I don't believe she pronounced the iota subscript there. It just sounded like o, rhapsoden. It's all pretty nitpicky, but I think the pronunciation wasn't that bad. Again, there's a circumflex on the last syllable, the an. Seemed like she wasn't pronouncing that, but again, it's just the same stuff. Overall, except for that first part of the sentence, that Alois, except for that part, she didn't do a bad job. So now I'm going to be moving on to the grammatical section and explaining why those words map onto the subtitles. Alright, moving on to the grammar part. The sentence is Alhoius te Sokratenelis te rhapsoiden, which translates to, in a more literal way, but you are generally of the sort to recite Socrates in Greek fashion. So that matches up with the subtitles down below in yellow. So you have the first word, Allah. It's al here because the final alpha has been elided. So it's just al, and it just means but, or however. Yeah, so the second word is hoios. Hoios is an adjective, and it's masculine. The word means a sort of person. It's masculine because Sumer, the spy, whom she is talking to, is a man. So if she was talking to a woman, you would put hoios in the feminine form, and you can also use it to talk about a situation. So you can say a sort of person, a sort of man, a sort of woman, or a sort of situation. The third and fourth words, so these are coupled together with hoios quite often. It's a common expression, and it comes in a lot of different variants. The means you are. So in this case, the hoioste means you are generally a sort of person. And this expression couples with an infinitive verb. And that infinitive verb is right at the end there, the rhapsoidein, which means to recite. That last verb means to recite. That's where we get the word rhapsody. And then you go to the infinitive, rhapsoidein. You are a sort of person to recite. And the verb recite needs an object. In this case, it's Sokraten, Socrates. So it means altogether, but you are generally the sort of person to recite Socrates. And then you have the word Hellenisti, which just means Greek, but it's in an adverb form, which is applied to the verb recite, meaning to recite in a Greek way, in this case Greek fashion. It's kind of all over the place, which ancient Greek is. It's fucking all over the place, because there's no sequence to the words, there's no sequence order, but in English there is, so it gets very wonky. So just before I wrap up this video, just want to make mention of something I said earlier. Gal Gadot mispronounced hoios as ois, and ois is actually a word, and it means a sheep. So if we put if we put what she said into the translation, it would come out something like, "But you are a sheep to recite Socrates in Greek fashion." So pronunciation is very important. So yeah, this brings me to the end of the video. Took a bit longer than expected, but we got there. And thanks for watching.